So I work in an after-school program, and because of that, I took a CPI training course to help with some of our behavior students, and it's a good thing I did because a couple days after I took the course, one of our behavior students was sitting alone playing with his Legos. He seemed kind of withdrawn, and so one of our other students went over and asked if he could play Legos with him, but our behavior student wasn't about it. He started throwing his toys, cursing, so my manager and I went over there. We tried to calm him down, didn't work, so we escorted him into our office, and once we got in there, he tried pushing over our cabinets, so we ended up having to put him in a non-violent holding technique because he was putting himself in harm and the people around him in harm, and we just wanted to make sure that everyone stayed safe. So the reason I share this story with you, because it shows how in the span of just a couple seconds, someone can escalate to the point where they just can't control their actions. And if I would have used what I learned in my CPI training a couple days before and noticed those early signs of crisis, I probably could have prevented from the crisis occurring at all. So today I'm going to discuss with you what CPI is and what it's not, why it's important, and how to decide the best way to help someone in crisis. CPI stands for Crisis Prevention Institute, but most people now know it as Nonviolent Crisis Intervention. So it teaches you effective skills to manage or prevent difficult behaviors. The training is really made for anyone in any profession. It really helps you understand how the brain works and how to help someone in crisis. That could even just be how to help someone who's stressed out, how to help them back so they don't feel stressed out, and just letting them know that you're there for them and you're caring for them. So CPI has 4 core values and philosophies. The first one is care, so that's demonstrating respect, dignity, and empathy, so providing support in a non-judgmental and centered type of way. The second one is welfare, so providing emotional and physical support, acting in a person's best interest in order to promote independence, choice, and well-being. The third one is safety, so protecting rights, safeguarding vulnerable people, reducing or managing risk to minimize injury or harm. The fourth and final one is security, so maintaining safe, effective, therapeutic relationships that rely on collaborations. So just making sure that everyone involved in the crisis is there for each other and all have the same goal to de-escalate the crisis. So what CPI is not. A lot of people, whenever they hear the word CPI, they think of a holding class and how to put people in holds or how to restrain people, but that's not what CPI is. That's probably only 10% of what you learn in the course. Yes, you learn how to use restraint techniques, but the course really teaches you that's only for last resorts in order to protect people involved in the crisis. But it's essential that we all understand this program can help reduce the amount of disruptive, escalated, and unsafe behaviors we encounter with to begin with. So the training does teach the risk of using restraints, which is because you can get sued if you use it the wrong way, and it also teaches you how to identify the true last resort situations and how to use the non-harmful and non-violent holding skills. And so now that we've discussed what CPI is and what it is not, I'm going to discuss with you why CPI is important. So CPI is important because it helps keep everyone safe who is involved in the crisis. And I keep using the phrases everyone safe and making sure that no one gets harmed because that's really what CPI is about. It's providing a safe environment to make sure that no one's harmed and everyone feels comfortable, feels like they're being heard. So this course can help you recognize those early signs of crisis and learn how to choose which intervention option is best on where someone's behavior fits into the model. So later on I'm going to show you a picture of a core model, what CPI uses, and how to decide what is the best option to help a person in crisis. So a couple other things I found on CPI and some statistics I found is 95% of people who take this course improve their de-escalation skills and overall safety. 40% of people reduce their challenging behaviors by more than a half. 84% of people who take this course reduce restraint use by at least a quarter, and some eliminate restraint as a whole, so they never have to use a restraint technique or a hold because they learned how to de-escalate the situation before it gets to that point. A quote I found from DC Foster, Behavioral Health Intervention Specialist at Arizona State Hospital, is CPI training allows our staff to get in front of situations before they occur. It helps us make prevention our best intervention. And I love this quote because it says, get in front of the situation before it occurs, because it really shows that if we get in front of the situation, we won't have to use other intervention techniques because we de-escalated the situation before it got worse. So as you can tell, a big part of CPI is deciding what is the best way to help a person in crisis. So I'm going to discuss with you a chart that CPI goes by on how to decide what is the best way to help a person in crisis. So this is the crisis development model that CPI really goes by, and it really helps you decide how to help a person in crisis and helps you learn how to help a person in crisis. So there's 4 different levels, and this is the level of the person in crisis and what they show, and how staff members' attitudes and approaches to helping the person in crisis. So level 1 is anxiety. So that's whenever a student or someone shows that they're withdrawn, they're really fidgety, really chatty. So in that level, the staff member should be supportive. So they should be praising that person. They should be asking them questions. They should use sensory support. Level 2 is the defensive level. So that's whenever the student is snapping back at you, not doing their work, making noise, and making sure you know they're in the room. So in that level, the staff should be very directive, and they should get down on their level, because if you are above them, you're going to seem overbearing and scary to the person in that crisis, and you don't want to make them more stressed out or nervous than they already are. So you should get down on their level. You should offer them choices. You should praise them. So let's say in that level, a student is wanting to play PBS Kids, but they're supposed to be doing their math work. You can say, okay, if you do 3 questions of your math work, then you can go on PBS Kids for 10 minutes. So in reality, they'll think they are winning the argument. In reality, you are, because they're still getting the work done that you wanted them to. The 3rd level is the level you never want to get to. It is the highest level, and this is the level that is escalated to the highest. And so it's the risk behavior level. So that's whenever a student is throwing everything that they see, they're pulling hair, they're biting people, risking themselves, and risking other people around them. So in this level, the staff should be using physical intervention. So that's whenever a staff member should be disengaging from the situation or using one of the holding skills they learned to manage the risk behavior to make sure no one in the situation is harmed and making sure that everyone stays safe. And then the 4th level is the de-escalation level. So that's the tension reduction level. So in that level, a person in crisis may be crying, they may be sleeping, they take that really deep breath, or they apologize. And in that level, the staff should be using therapeutic report, so they should be calming the students down and letting them know that they're safe and everything's okay. So remembering this chart is very important when thinking of what is the best way to help a person in crisis, because every level is different and everything in the level is different. So whenever you're going to help a student, they may just be at level 1 and maybe just at being really chatty, or maybe just seem withdrawn. Or whenever you may get there, they may be on level 3 and already, in my situation, trying to push over a cabinet. So you may have to go straight into putting them in a non-violent hold. So remembering this chart is really important because it'll help you decide what is the best way to go about the situation. So today I have discussed with you what CPI is and what it's not, why it's important, and how to decide the best way to help a person in crisis. We need to remember that CPI is not a restraint or holding class, that it teaches you that in a last resort, for using that in the last resort, but you should try not to use it at all. But it teaches you how to help people in crisis and how to talk to them and how to de-escalate the situation. This program can help people who are in tough situations and how to talk to people in a caring type of way. We also need to remember to quickly think about the situation before we act, so we make the right decision on how to help the person in crisis. Like my example at the beginning, if I noticed the signs of crisis before the event happened, I probably could have prevented the crisis from happening at all with my student. I highly recommend taking this course because it has helped me with almost every job that I have been in, so thank you.